Do you want to give an opening comment or to go straight to questions?
Let's go straight to him.
Okay, we are ready to begin with Coach Musselman. And if you would, please raise your hand and we'll get a mic to you. In the very back, middle.
Hey, Coach Curtis Wilkerson with Hog Sports. I know how you feel about preseason polls, but you guys came in at number 2 in the SEC media poll today. When you look around the returning talent in the league and then you look at your roster with the turnover, the youth that you've mentioned, what does it say about where you have the Arkansas program to be up there at the top?
Yeah, I mean, again, just like we talked to our team about yesterday, the preseason polls, preseason conference rankings really are irrelevant. How people come to those conclusions, everybody's got their own reasons for, how they rank or preseason national rankings. But the only thing I do know is we have 2 players that have put on an Arkansas Razorback uniform, and we have 11 guys that have not. So we have a lot of unknowns. Obviously, by what's happened in the preseason polls or the SEC. Preseason stuff is there's really great respect for our 6 freshmen and obviously the transfers that have come in, and then how much the last 2 years influence people coming off back-to-back Elite Eights. I don't know, but I'm assuming that it has a little bit of influence. Not that it should, because it's irrelevant to a new team, but with rankings, there does come some responsibility, and you've got to understand that when you play an opponent, your name is probably circled. So we have, as a team, we're probably circled on a lot of schedules, and then individually we probably have some players that'll be circled when people look at our roster. So you've got to understand the responsibility that comes with that by being overly mentally prepared, by being physically prepared. We did go through it at Nevada. We're 17 straight weeks we were in the top 10, and it does. There's added pressure. Let me put it like that. So how you can alleviate some of that pressure. Meaning our coaching staff and any of us that are in leadership position, we have to make sure that the guys enjoy the season as well.
In the very back.
Scotty Bordelon, Whole Hog Sports. Coach, I think you've coached 101 games at Arkansas. What have been some of the keys to getting the program to where you want it, and then what's going to carry it into the future the way that you want it?
Yeah, I mean, I think just coming every day, understanding there's a process. In the summer it's a process. Once the season hits, it's a process. You've got to, right now in college basketball or college football, whatever, you've always got to have a short-term plan, and then you've also got to have a long-term plan that has some type of sustainability, however you're going to, whatever that sustainability is going to be for a long-term plan. But we feel like we've had 3 really good years. But in today's world, it's what are we going to do the next game and then the next game after that, and just try to take each game as they come on the schedule. And then the biggest key is how do you improve as a team throughout the course of the season.
I guess I'm over. Yeah, Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat, is that we're supposed to ID ourselves. As far as the league, 5 teams are ranked. A&M's right there at 26. I know obviously the season hasn't started yet, but how good do you think the league's going to be? How challenging have you found it your first 3 years, and then how good do you think it's going to be this year?
Yeah, I think the league's phenomenal. Star players. Players that are going to play in the NBA. You look at the NBA draft the last few years. incredible coaching. So, as a league, if you have really good coaches and you have NBA level talent, and then, you have institutions that have great credibility nationally. I know that the SEC is an incredible football conference, but it's also an incredible basketball conference. And, every single night that you play somebody, that particular team in our conference can beat anybody, not just in conference, but anybody in our league, I think, could beat anybody nationally as well. So it's a difficult conference to play in and win at a high level.
Very back right.
Coach John Neighbors, 103.7 The Buzz. Something that Razorback Baseball did that was kind of interesting is they played the Texas Rangers instructional team, and Dave Van Horn talked about
I wish we could play a couple NBA teams too, but I'll let those teams, we won't name them.
Well, that's actually was going to lead to my question when it comes to your exhibitions, games against Texas on the road, and then, of course, going overseas. What's the process like that? And also, would there be a way you could pull off maybe playing some sort of professional, semi-professional teams in an exhibition?
I think that, everything right now is evolving, but obviously the baseball that you're referring to, because I do have some friends that work with the Rangers minor league system, and most of those guys, a lot of those guys were younger even than the college guys. And so the way that the baseball format is set up is just, you can't equate the Dominican League and some of the different things, having 3 levels, or maybe 4, I guess, if you go rookie ball, instructional league, and in basketball there's just the G League basically. So I don't think it's really, it doesn't line up like college baseball teams playing, one of the younger minor league group of players. But I do think the international stuff that we were able to do this year is great from a lot of things. It breaks up the monotony of what I think is way too long of an off season in college basketball, and the playing a charity exhibition is going to be really, really good. I'm glad that we're able to play another Division I team. For us, that particular game against Texas is extremely important. Coach Beard does a great job. His teams are overly physical, and this year's Longhorns team is got really an experienced team. When you look at their backcourt, and I don't know how old Marcus Carr is, but I remember him at Minnesota, and they have some transfers that are really, really experienced. And for our young guys, that's a great opportunity for us to go have tape to fall back on, and no different than coaching in an NBA exhibition game. That game's not going to count on your record whether you win or lose, and so it holds great value to us because we can look at different combinations and maybe some things that we wouldn't do in a regular season game.
To your right.
Coach Richard Hendricks, Crimson Tide Sports Network. You had many years of coaching in the D-League as well as the CBA. Do you think that equipped you much better to handle this transfer portal age where there's a lot of player movement on your roster?
I hope so. When you coach in the minor leagues, you wake up one day and your top 3 players might be gone. And so it changes the way that you teach. It changes the way that you implement a system. And so, again, just looking at our own team with only 2 returners, a lot of the format that we've used this summer in implementing things both offensively and defensively is much the same that we used while coaching in the minor leagues. And certainly a changing, fluctuating roster, I don't flinch with that at all. It's probably healthy that that they hear a different voice every couple years or whatever. So, maybe the way that college basketball is right now with the freedom of movement with players is kind of equivalent to free agency at the pro level. And maybe with my background, I'm more equipped to coach today than maybe I would have been 20 years ago in college.
right here in second row.
Kyle Tucker, The Athletic. Couple of big ideas people have for your sport. One, summer basketball, and two, expanding the NCAA tournament field. Just your thoughts on both of those ideas.
Well, on the summer basketball, I think it's an awesome idea. You know, talking to our players even this week, I mean, it's really hard to have this gap between games. And we played, you know, a few weeks longer than other people even, and I can't imagine if your season ends on the last regular season game. Sorry about that. So I think it's a great idea. I mean, you look at what the NBA's done, where they take over July. Incredible what they've done from a TV standpoint. People are talking about the NBA Summer League in Las Vegas rather than talking about Major League Baseball during their regular season. So I think that, and I know Coach Calipari's been, you know, been outspoken about the idea and he's discussed it not just recently, he's discussed it a few years ago as well. And I think that's the brilliance in Coach Cal, is that he's an outside-the-box thinker. He's constantly trying to evolve and evolve our game. You know, I think it's an incredible idea, and I think that most importantly that our players would embrace that. I like the tournament field like it is. I mean, you know, growing up with my dad as a college coach, I mean, there used to be half the teams that there are now, and you know, I think it's a perfect number in my opinion. It's you know, it's hard to make the NCAA tournament. You know, there's value in the regular season, so I really like it a lot. I think that, you know, you always want to change, you want to evolve with the times, but certain things, I mean, it's really working well right now for everybody involved. So I don't know. Again, just my opinion. I don't know why you'd want to change it, but
Second row.
Hey, Eric. Kevin Skarbinski from the SEC blog. What did last year's win over Auburn mean for the development, first of all, of last year's team, and then overall for the program, the historic nature of it beating the #1 team, et cetera?
yeah, I think any time that you have a sold-out building, you know, and you can beat the #1 team in the, you know, I think it heightens the awareness nationally. You know, and I think we're the first team to, you know, to do that in the regular season and then also do it in the NCAA tournament by beating Gonzaga. I, you know, certainly think the Gonzaga win from a national standpoint, because it was in the NCAA tournament, that nationally it you know, put us in a conversation. But you know, Auburn had a really talented team last year, and I think it gave our team confidence as well.
Very back.
Coach Jack Byers from Rivals.com, Bulldog Blitz. Nick Smith's been someone projected to be one of the top picks in this year's NBA draft. I guess, how is he kind of handling those high expectations, and what do you kind of expect to see from him this season?
Yeah, Nick is a, you know, I think he's used to playing with expectations throughout his high school career. He's had high expectations, and you know, he's a player that kind of moves on the floor effortlessly, almost like he's on skates. He's cosmetically pleasing to watch offensively with the way that he can find seams in the defense, and he's a really good shooter as well. Can play both the point guard or the off guard for us, and obviously has an incredible bright future as well.
Hey, Eric, Kamani played pretty well over in Europe. How's he played since then? And you know, the other day in the red-white game, he took a couple charges, but he picked up a lot of fouls. Kind of, where's the fine line between you want a physical guy, but you don't want him to, you know, foul out in 5 minutes? Kind of, how do you handle that with him? And kind of, how do you feel about him at this point, you know, the preseason?
Yeah, the one thing about Kamani is what anybody that's a Arkansas Razorback basketball fan has seen from Kamani. That's exactly what you see in practice behind closed doors. He is physical. He does like to mix it up underneath the rim. He's an excellent offensive rebounder. He provides toughness. I guess the good thing is this year we got a couple other big guys where in the past we haven't. So if he gets 5 fouls in 5 minutes, we can throw somebody else in there because we haven't had much depth, and we probably have more depth than we have the past 3 years as far as up front with bigs.
Right here in the middle. Coach Joe Cox, Saturday Down South. Wanted to ask you about the use of analytics. You're kind of an it guy for that. You guys apparently chart everything and do a lot of reports. Talk about how you use that. And if you're still is that a development in progress? Are you always looking at other things you maybe should be following, et cetera?
Yeah, I think from an analytics standpoint, I often laugh with Tom Thibodeau, who's the New York Knicks coach, because analytics has been around for a really long time. My father had his own way to evaluate rebounds per minute, a formula that he didn't share with a lot of people. I had an opportunity to work with Hubie Brown one summer. Hubie Brown was the most analytically driven coach that I've ever been around. You're talking about somebody that, that coached a long time ago. But yes, we have, as the game's evolved, we want to evolve, and the mid-range shot and the value of that, we like to study and learn. But Billy Bean is a guy that was a neighbor of ours when I lived in the Bay Area, and was really intrigued to pick his brain this summer. My son and I met with Brandon Staley, who obviously is one of the at the forefront for the NFL on how he deals with decision making based on analytics. Phil Nevin, who's the Angels manager, I was with him on 4 different road trips with the Angels, and just hearing him discuss with his coaches from both the defensive side, pitching-wise, and then offensively, pitches to take, pitches not to take. It's really fascinating, and that part of our game continues to grow. But having said that, I still think having a feel for the game, supersedes all of that. But analytics is part of our game in all sports, and obviously baseball started it, and then basketball got involved, and now the NFL's involved in it. Plus, we don't want Todd Golden to be the only one in the SEC talking about analytics.
In the back, Bob.
Eric, I know earlier you talked about needing to be patient with this team, especially with 6 freshmen. How do you think you've done in that regard?
How do you think I've done, Bob?
I think you're really trying hard.
I am trying hard. We have slowed down our teaching to a snail's pace at times. Patience is going to be a word all year long. Because 6 out of 13 freshmen is a lot. It's new for me. It might not be new for maybe some other coaches in college, but it is new for me. We've historically had a veteran-laden team, whether it was at Arkansas or even Nevada. So, but our teams also have tended to get better as the season's progressed, and you'd think with 6 young players, and it's not just the 6 freshmen. Brazil, a transfer from Missouri, has only played 1 year of college basketball, and Ricky Council, still a young player. So across the board, we're really, really young, and hopefully we get better. But I think patience is a word that we use oftentimes in our staff meetings.
Front row, right here.
Nubias Wilborn, AL.com. Coach, where have you seen the greatest, benefits of the transfer portal in NIL, and where have you seen the weaknesses? And are you for banning the shift? You were talking about baseball.
I think with the transfers, it's not just college athletics. Many of the players that we are recruiting, meaning an SEC baseball coach, an SEC football coach, SEC, like a lot of our future prospective student athletes have played for multiple high schools, multiple AAU programs, oftentimes have played in multiple states before they go to college. So that's the way it is. You look at professional sports, and you think about great players that played for maybe one franchise in Major League Baseball, or the Pittsburgh Steelers, and guys that just stayed there for 15 years. NBA players, the Larry Birds that stay with one team. Like, that's not how the NBA is. That's not how Major League Baseball is. Free agencies change. College athletics is, because I've only been in it really for 7 years as a head coach, and each year it just kind of keeps going closer and closer to the professional model, as far as players now having the ability and the freedom, to play at multiple institutions. I mean, I think it's good. I mean, I think the players should have the right to leave if they don't have the role that they want. My son's a senior at the University of San Diego. He doesn't play athletics, but if he wants to transfer next month to Pepperdine, he can do it, and there's not a problem. And he's the same age as these guys. So, as far as that, and then the name, image, and likeness, I think it's a good thing for the student athletes. Hopefully there'll be some, a clearer picture on it as we move into the future. But I think it's a good thing for student athletes in all regards.
Last question in the back.
Yeah, Eric, before Ricky Council signed with you guys, I talked to him and he said that whatever league that he joined, he wanted to try to win Defensive Player of the Year. I'm curious what kind of a defender you've seen him be, and what is his defensive potential?
Yeah, I think defensively with Ricky, he's a great athlete. He's got great anticipation. I think he's still learning a lot of our defensive concepts. Where we're trying to force the ball, what our second and third rotations look like, how we X out from the weak side. I mean, there's a lot of areas that Ricky is, as is all of our new guys, that he's still learning. But from an athletic standpoint, from a toughness standpoint, to be a great defender, you got to be willing to fight through screens. And I think the one thing with Ricky is he comes from the same AAU program as a DC Tony, and I think he saw that a DC turned into one of the best defenders in all of college basketball. And the way that a DC defended in the NCAA tournament against Gonzaga was, it was as good a defensive individual player that we've seen or we've had, and I think that Ricky aspires to try to do that as well.
Okay, thank you, Coach.
Thank you.